Hello and welcome. I'm Don Stanek, and in today's session, we're going to talk about the importance of jumpstarting in your first quarter and identifying who's going to do a transaction with you in the first 90 days of the year. Now, of course, you can use this method for any quarter of the year, but we're here at the beginning of the year. And I find in the years where I have great financial reward, it's usually because I've had a really good first quarter financially. It sets me up for a rhythm for the rest of the year. And it's also really difficult if you're behind in your income, if you're behind in your production in September, it's much more difficult to make that up before the end of the next year. This setup that I have quarter over quarter is tried and true. I coach people from all over the country to employ the method, and it works fabulously. I discovered it myself, even though I've been in the business for 32 years now. I didn't really pick this up until probably my fifth or sixth year in the business. I found that I was avoiding things that I didn't need to be avoiding, and I was doing a lot of things that were preventing me from just launching in and just taking action and getting things done. So the things that we're going to be talking about that you need to focus on in this 90-day period of time isn't just about what you're going to do, but it's also about the stuff that you really don't need to do or focus on necessarily right at that particular moment. So it's kind of about taking your activities and measuring their effectiveness and then prioritizing the things that you need to do first. So let's get started. So the first thing that we need to do is break down your activities into two big categories. And that is, there are things that you're doing to make your business more efficient, which is you're working on projects that create system and process, right? So that kind of hangs out over here. And then the other thing that you need to do, the other set of activities, are really operational things of running your business. Now, I've heard some coaches explain this in the past as saying working the business and working on the business. And when the first time I heard that, I'm like, what? I don't know. What are you talking about? So let's not describe it that way. Let's describe it as there are projects to enhance our efficiency and our systems and processes. No saying that over there. And then there's the day-to-day operations that we need to engage in, which is running our business, okay? When we talk about that first 90 days or a quarter, what I don't necessarily want you to do in the first 2 weeks of the quarter is worry about creating a new system or creating a new process. In the first 2 weeks of every quarter, I want you to get on the phone and to start or texting, making phone call, engage people in social media with private message, instant message, and be very, very targeted and very specific. And the question you need to ask yourself is, who are the people that I know that are going to transact in this next 90-day period of time? Now, most likely, if I know them already and I already have context around why they're doing it, it's because they're in some kind of database. Now, again, I'm not saying go in there and make your database perfect before you start making phone calls. The first 2 weeks of the quarter is about setting up the tenor and the success for your actual face-to-face engagement, your appointments. Are you setting appointments? Focus on setting appointments in the first 2 weeks of the quarter. Don't worry about, well, if I had a better CRM, if I had a better phone, if I had an auto dialer, this would be easy. No, what's happening is you're using all these things as a distraction to prevent you from doing the one thing that you should be doing, and that is direct prospect engagement. First things first, identify people that are in your list or that you're keeping track of that are going to transact in the next 90 days. Get on the phone, set an appointment with them, take their temperature, ask them. Now, last time we spoke, you said you were going to be doing, looking to transact in the first quarter. You want to sell your property by February or March of the year. Well, guess what? I'm making the phone call because I took notes and I remember. So I know that you already have people in your database that you've had this conversation with. And why are you going to neglect calling them? For goodness sakes, just get on the phone and call them right now. Okay, the other way that phone call might go something like this. Hey, the last time we spoke, you were thinking about putting your house on the market in March. Does that time frame still work for you? At which point they say, who is this? Who are you? I don't remember that. Are you trying to sell me something? So hopefully the call doesn't go like that. But it might. It still might, at which point you just refresh your memory where you met, how you know each other, and lead right in to the question. I am so sorry. I mistakenly thought you wanted to sell your house by March. Has your time frame changed? And if so, what are the factors around that? Has your time frame changed, and what are the factors around that? I'm digging for core motivation to establish timeline or reestablish timeline. Even though I'm really excited about wanting to get all my appointments set for this quarter, I am going to stumble across a lot of people who might not be ready to do it right now. But I am going to do it with them in the future. I'm going to list their property. I'm going to help them find a replacement home in the future. I need to figure out which quarter this is going to fit into, because in the second quarter, I need appointments. And in the third quarter, I need appointments. And in the fourth quarter, I need appointments. Establishing context around core motive is going to help you establish your follow-up sequence as you start discovering these facts somewhere in your database. Look, here's a couple of things I just need you to have in your database. I don't care if you're using index cards or if you got the most expensive CRM on the planet. You need complete contact information of the person that you're talking to, number one. Number two, you need an estimated time frame for their coming transaction, estimated, and it has to be associated with a core motivation. You're making these first quarter calls trying to set an appointment to try to maximize the amount of money you're making in the first quarter. But as you're doing this, you're starting to ferret out timelines for the rest of the year, which is going to ensure that you can have a great big financial year. Okay, the third way this phone call could go, ring, ring, ring. Hey, it's Don. I'm following up. You said you wanted to sell your house in March, and I took great notes, and I'm calling you. Are you ready to sell your house? Get it on the market, sell it in March. And they don't say no, and they don't say yes, but what they say is, yeah, I'm so glad you called. Thinking probably March isn't going to work for us any longer. We think maybe June or September or maybe next December. Now, if you get this call, consider yourself lucky because you need transactions in the future. We already covered that. But my goal is to help you quantify and qualify that objection. Now, for what reason? You want to compress their time frame. It's been my experience that when I start identifying a core reason with a prospect, their time frame about 90% of the time actually is going to compress. Now, sometimes their time frame gets blown out because of circumstances beyond anyone's control. Maybe there's a financial situation, or maybe a job change that just makes it too difficult, or some other life change that causes them to not want to go forward within their original time frame. But as a sales professional, what I'm begging you to do is get in that fight, because a lot of times it's just people are procrastinating and they want to put it off, and they might even come up with some ideas like, well, the interest rates are going up and down and there's storm clouds on the horizon, and some people got laid off at the plant. So all those are kind of mushy and ambiguous. Now, if they say I got a layoff notice and I'm not comfortable entering a transaction, now that's a whole different circumstance, but that doesn't mean you still don't follow up with them, because this person may or may not actually get laid off. And if they did, they might actually find a better job someplace else making more money. Don't always be the Debbie Downer and think that the situation is going to get worse with time. What it is going to do, it's going to help you establish the fact that you really care about this person. It's really not about the commission. There's always a good reason to put on the table to possibly help someone shorten their time frame. If somebody wants to push off until the end of summer before they start looking for a house, maybe a gentle thing for you to say would be, well, you certainly could wait till September. But the truth of the matter is, if you get a first to start market, if you get to the market early in the first quarter, you're going to be one of the first listings to market in the new season, which is going to attract more buyers. A lot of people start looking for properties at that time of year, and you could be first to market. And if we can get more showings on your property, then the odds are really good that we're going to drive the price up higher to the high possible market valuation. So is that baloney? No, I actually think it's a pretty legitimate argument. By the time you list your house in September, there's a lot of other properties that are kind of coming off the market. And there's a lot of people who are think, well, if I didn't get settled by the end of the school year, let's just put it off until first quarter of next year. And so you have fewer buyers looking for properties in the late third quarter or in the fourth quarter. These are compelling and good reasons to bring up to your potential listing that wants to push their time frame off. It's not based in fantasy. You can actually go to your MLS and start pulling some of these trends. Look at the number of homes that are available in each quarter, and then look at what the absorption rate is, and that's the actual sales rate of homes for each quarter of the last year, the last couple of years. You're going to see a trend. You're going to see a pattern. More transactions happen in the second and the third quarter. This means that there's more buyers in the market buying, and you need to be able to express this intelligently to anyone that you're recording a listing presentation for. Okay, so that's a pretty good example of how it might go, or a suggested dialogue around the list side. But what about a buy side? What if you're having a quick conversation with someone and they say, well, I'd like to buy a property, but I'm going to wait. And I'm going to wait until at some point in the future. Well, I don't know when. I don't know. Thinking. I don't know how long. But of course, you're going to start asking some questions because you want to qualify and quantify the intent of your home buyer. Do they currently have a home to sell? Is going to play into a big strategy. Let's say they don't. They don't have a home to sell and they're still putting it off. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you just wait, or do you establish a time frame? I want you to establish a time frame. A lot of times buyers and first-time buyers are very interest rate sensitive, but the truth of the matter is nobody knows what's going to happen in the future with interest rates. They go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. The only way you can stop the fluctuation in an interest rate is sign loan documents on a 30-year fixed mortgage. Problem solved, right? You don't have to worry about that any longer. So long as the payment can line up with their affordability and they're qualifying, now it's just a matter of choice. They're choosing not to go forward based maybe on fear or unfamiliarity with the situation. People put off this purchase all the time based on really, really mushy criteria. Now, you might want to have a simple suggested dialogue around a buyer who wants to put their decision off out of the first quarter, okay? Here's what I recommend. Identify the type of property, and if you can identify their preferred location within a city, all the better. Because what I want you to do in the first 2 weeks of the quarter is identify that buyer. If there aren't properties that are currently on the market that are suitable for that buyer, I want you to get a real tight list of criteria on that buyer. Probably want you to have them sign a buyer agreement. And here's the dialogue with the buyer. Mr. Buyer, I appreciate the fact you're looking in Woodbridge in Irvine, California, and you're looking for such and such plan, and you want the 3-bedroom, and that plan's not currently available. And I also understand, because we've seen other properties last year and you didn't want to compromise, you really want that floor plan or want that location. Let me ask you this. If I, as your agent, were to commit to go and find that property in that location, would you at least consider purchasing it? Okay? Would you at least consider purchasing it? What am I doing here? I'm looking for a commitment for a commitment. I'm committed to go door knock on in the area in which you want to live if you'll at least consider purchasing a house in that location. Now, you're going to get a ton of information from that buyer right then and there. If they say, well, no, that's just too much bother. Like, what? It's not too much bother because I'm service oriented and it's my goal to satisfy your needs. And if I don't satisfy your needs, there's no movement, which means, I don't get paid, but more importantly, you don't get to live out the American dream. Why is this technique so powerful? Because I am going to stack up as many buyers as I can in every single quarter and identify their preferred location, their preferred floor plan. And what am I going to do with it? I'm going to go door knocking, for gosh sakes. And it's an unsolicited offer, right? I'm going to go knock on a door. Hi, I'm Don Stanek, and I have a buyer. And you might even say it's, first name. Don't give them all this information about the buyer. You can say, I represent Bill and Kathy. There's some folks who are interested in purchasing a house here in Woodbridge. They like your neighborhood because their child's going to be coming into the elementary school, and you have this whole complete story. Now, I'm just curious, do you know anyone in your neighborhood who might be interested in possibly selling your home? Or, in fact, maybe that's you. Are you interested in selling your property? What a great way and a great compelling reason to go door knocking. Now, a lot of times, maybe an agent will go door knock and not have that motivation. But I'm telling you, if I'm a buyer's agent and I'm representing a buyer and they're stumbling because we can't find the right product for them, I'm looking for a commitment for a commitment. It's going to put me in a powerful position to actually go door knocking and procure a listing. Think about how brilliant and easy this is. I want you to take the first 2 weeks of every quarter and do these recommendations. Don't worry about developing a system and a process. I want you to get in it. I want you to jump in it to win it in the first 2 weeks of every quarter. Okay, here are the action items and the takeaway summary. So here's the deal. I want you not to necessarily work on system and process in the first 2 weeks of every quarter. What I want you to do is focus on setting appointments, and I want you to grade your database based on who's next, who's next, who's next. I want you to make sure that you're never confused about what the next 90 days is going to look like in terms of your production and in terms of your behavior. Why? Because this is going to set a precedent for you to understand the operational side of your house. If you know that you've got 10 or 15 listing appointments set up in the first quarter, well, guess what? That means that, that bowling ball is going to move through the snake, which means you're going to get to a point where you have a lot of transaction management on your hands, and that's going to be maybe an issue, or all these other things that come along with, more transactions and more production. Now, that is all about working on the operational side and the systems and the process of your business, which maybe you push off to the third and fourth week of the first quarter and the second quarter and the third quarter. So maybe you don't even look at making changes to a CRM or a method in January, but maybe you just make a clear, conscious choice in your head to say, I'm not even going to look at that until February or March. I need to get my stuff in gear, and I need to get my appointments set. I need to prioritize my who's next in my database first. And then after I get that, I'll have the luxury of having a couple more weeks to think about, all right, maybe I sign up for a new CRM. Maybe I go grab a coach. Maybe I do whatever it is I got to do. Maybe I hire a transaction coordinator. Maybe I bring in a buyer's agent. Maybe I buy a franchise, right? But don't let all these things cloud your head in the first month of any brand new quarter. Got it? Now, this means that you don't neglect the operational side of your house and the system and process side of your house. Do allocate time for it. Just don't do it in the first month of the quarter. That's where your money is sitting. If you don't focus on that money, it's not going to drive your behavior, and you're going to use all these other things for excuses. Okay, as always, there's a lot in this 15 or 20-minute video. If you find that you're stumbling with any of it or that you need help, for gosh sakes, I'm available to you. If you're within the sound of my voice and you're listening to this video, feel free to go grab 15 minutes on my calendar. You can do so from my website. I look forward to helping you in any way that I possibly can.